Hello everybody and welcome to round 2 of the ADAC Professional Trophy here at the virtual Temple of Speed. My name is Paul Jeffrey and once again I am delighted to welcome your friend of mine, Mr. David Christie.
And the crowd goes wild. Good evening, Paul. Where do we even go after round 1, after last week? I fear that we've set the bar so high that we're going to need a rocket to even get up to that. What an amazing way to start off this season at Paul Ricard. But tonight, completely different kettle of fish. All bets are off.
Yep, absolutely. It's a completely new circuit. It is, as I say, the Temple of Speed, which of course, for all you that don't know out there, it is the Monza Grand Prix track. Very different racetrack, very different experience, and also a rather different grid, David. we've got 25 cars taking part, but the big thing is there are 11 driver changes amongst the team from the round that we previously undertook at Paul Ricard. So the teams slotting in their ringers for this race, David, gives a completely different complexion on this event.
Yeah, this isn't something that we're used to seeing through the normal course of Assetto Corsa Competizione races, with them being an hour plus or whatever. So I love this. I love the idea of the teams just, popping in like rechargeable parts, that their best drivers to take on the different tracks here. It means that they're throwing everything behind this championship. They really, really do want to get the best possible performance and the best possible finish out of this race. I think that lends itself to a cracking race here at Monza.
Yep, completely agree, because let's remember, for anybody new to the ADAC Professional Trophy at home, it is the teams that we score points against, not the drivers. There is a drop round as well. It's a 4-race championship, but it's the teams that attract the points. So last time around, Dennis Schoninger won for the Williams Esports Chili Blast machine, but now Wojtek Fiala is in the cockpit of that car. And that's another element of increased strategy, isn't it, coming into this one?
It is. It really is. The other point of strategy, I guess, to talk about tonight here, Paul, is ballast. That's going to be a key factor. This is going to be the first round that the drivers are going to be affected by that. And that, I think, while not going to make a huge amount of difference, I think it will be something to consider, especially towards the later part of the race.
Absolutely, because Monza, of course, is the quickest track on the calendar. 15 kilos has gone to Fiala, who, by dint of winning the opening race of the season, 10 kilos for Van der Velde and 5 kilos for Statsenko. And when you're accelerating, braking, turning, that additional weight on a track where, David, straight line speed and the ability to attack and exit a corner is absolutely critical, this is possibly going to be the most painful track of every one that we visit to carry some additional kilos.
100%. It really is going to cost them quite significantly, I think, tonight. Maybe at later rounds it won't have as much of an impact, but as you said, straight line speed is the name of the game here tonight, and you might see that's why they've swapped around some of the drivers. Remember, with it being a multiple round championship with the final rounds taking place live in person at the SimRacing Expo, it really, all roads lead to there. It's all about setting themselves up for the best possible opportunity and that share of the €5,000 cash pool prize.
Yeah, and of course, obviously, we've got a drop score as well. So of the 4 races, the teams are allowed to remove, in effect, one of their race results from their overall championship tally. So if they get into any kind of strife by the end of the season, they do have a joker, shall we say, over the course of this 4 round, which I know for me as a driver, David, I would find that really difficult to have that in the back of my mind, knowing that in effect I can kind of cock this one up and it's not too bad. That would put me off, I think, a little.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely spot on with that one. Having that crutch there is a little bit of a safety net, and it's not a good thing to have as a team, because remember, it's not just about the drivers, it's about the teams. So yeah, you don't want to use that one up not too early, and it's not really the driver's position to say, well, yeah, let's just use it.
Yep. So anybody who's new, first and foremost, a big welcome on Twitch and YouTube. The format for tonight will be a 15-minute qualification and a 45-minute race. And I'm delighted to say qualifying is already live. So let's head trackside and take a look at who is doing what with 8 minutes and 55 seconds left on the clock. It is the 44, the quickest car with a 45.942. I fear, David, that time is going to drop significantly over this next 8 and a bit minutes.
There's no doubt about that whatsoever, Paul. That will get absolutely smashed to smithereens. I think we'll be lucky to stay inside the top 20 with a time like that. Such is the way that these times come tumbling down very, very quickly. We're on board there, or rather watching the Veloci Esports car, currently with George Boothby piloting that one. Just 1/100th of a second behind Tool in that number 44. So again, the order of the day here seems to be McLaren's. Those are the cars that are doing very, very well. But you've got a couple of outliers. You've got Marco Jonkers there in that number 1 West Competition Racing BMW up in the top 3. And no surprises, the 696 Lamborghini, Mikhail Statsenko. I mean, the storyline was all about him last week out. It could have been so very different for them at Paul Ricard. That ITB Esports car charging up through the field, and it was denied right at the last gasp with some contact and a little bit of raised eyebrows going on there, and he was only able to take third place.
Yes, Statsenko is certainly going to be one to watch. He's carrying 5 kilos success ballast courtesy of that bottom step of the podium finish last time out. So let's keep an eye on that one. This is Wojtek Fiala in the 55 that we spoke about. He's replacing Dennis Schoninger, so making his debut in the series this season for the Williams machine. But Statsenko now, 6th place, coming around the curve. Michele Alboreto takes a wide line actually in the middle of the corner, then nips the car back to the inside for the shortest run to the line. Is this anything to improve his time? Yes, it is. 3rd position, and look at that, David Christie, half a tenth, covers the top 4. Incredible.
Very, very close stuff. I might have to re-gauge my initial impression about what's going to happen to Hull there in the 44. Mark Yonkers, though, coming through the seconds of the Lesmos here and going slightly wide. I think slightly might be an understatement there, Paul. I think his lap might be done there.
Yeah, absolutely. Oscar can get back down pit lane though, get a new set of boots on the car, and there's still time to get out onto the racetrack and set himself a time. Tim Peachman that we're looking at for Welton Esports, the 72 car, is in 21st position at the moment. On paper, 21st position, you'll think, yeah, he's not very fast, is he? Look how close he is though, less than 1 second away from the provisional pole position time. That's how tight the field is in the ADAC Professional Trophy. Peachman only needs to find a couple of tenths of a second, and all of a sudden he's moving up several rows of the grid. This is absolutely critical, this qualifying, to give yourself the right opportunity heading into the race.
It absolutely is. It could not be more important, I think, here in this second round, because so many championship hopes are going to rest on tonight here. You've got Oscar Hull, as we see here, for Visceral Esports, and for me a little bit of a surprise to see them so far up, given that we didn't really see them at all in that opening rounds at all. But again, better late than never, and the 44 coming round that final corner.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. It's a massive surprise at this stage in qualifying to see Hull so competitive. A 45.942 is the time on the board, so he remains in provisional pole position. George Boothby stepping in to the 992 in place of Maciej Malinowski. Currently in 2nd position, there is the Veloci Esports McLaren machine on your screen now. Statsenko in 3rd place, as he was last week in the opening round, and then Fiala in 4th position. You've mentioned Marco Yonkers already, David, and I think that really it's really worth mentioning that BMW traditionally isn't the quickest car over a qualifying lap, but can do quite nicely indeed over a race stint. Here at Monza, not that many corners, the ability for the car to fade over the stints probably a little bit lower. Yonkers is a bit of a dark horse for this one.
Yonkers absolutely is. I mean, you look at the 0.8 of a second gap between him and his sister car, Andrea Maclea, in that number 2 BMW, down there a second off of Oscar Hull right now. That shows you the gap, between the 2 BMWs, but between the 2 drivers. That is absolute pure driver performance there that's got that car up into that 5th position just now. The BMW, as you said, it's not known for its straight line speed, but it can handle the corners like nothing else. It's a beautiful, beautiful car. Very, very planted as well. I think that'll do very well in the race, but for qualifying, to see that up in 5th, that is a big surprise. 4 minutes left to go. A lot can change, but as you're saying, it keeps on changing very, very quickly. 20 cars here now, Paul, within a second of the race leader.
Absolutely sensational stuff. We're looking at Wojtek Fiala now for Williams Esports, coming down the back straight into the former Parabolica, now Curva. Michele Alboreto. Can Fiala find nearly 0.2 of a second to put his car in a provisional pole position? We'll watch him to the line. Here we go, the shortest run to the line as well for Wojtek. Moves into 2nd place. The 55 shares the front row of the grid. 1, 2, 3 for the McLaren brand. And George Boothby, under the radar, has snuck in there as well for the provisional quickest time of the session thus far.
Yeah, great observation there, Paul. Completely snuck under the radar for me as well. Didn't notice him going ahead of Oscar Hull there, but as you said, George Boothby into pole position ahead. Wojtek Fiala looking to make those big gains after last week's outing at Paul Ricard. We're watching Tommy Rozier here for STL Esports, just coming through towards that really fast chicane here, one that is going to catch many drivers out here tonight. Absolutely guaranteed. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. Coming through that left and then right and then left again at Ascari, and then through into that final long right sweeping right-hander that it was formerly the Parabolica, now lovingly named the Michele Alboreto curve.
Which is, it goes against everything, but it's all about the launch from the turns. If you're slow off the corner, you carry that deficit for such a very long way. Here at Monza, so easy to snatch a break, run a little bit deep. You can escape over the sausage curves, but that is your lap done and done. Good line there from Rozier, aggressive, uses the inside curb, launches the car, but no momentum lost. Then into the first of the two Lesmos, another corner, very difficult, very easy to run wide. And this is one of those tracks, David, where if you leave 0.0001% on the table, it will cost you massively in qualifying and the race as well.
We've seen on previous races here and previous championships as well, you leave 0.001 on the table as Chris Warner decides to take the scenic route around Ascari. Thankfully avoids the barriers there, gets the green flag going again. You leave 0.001 on the table in any championship and you're going to lose at least 3-4 positions normally on this. Thankfully a little bit of headway given on this championship here, 20 cars still within that 1 second mark of George Boothby right now, but again just showing how tight things are at the front there and very
to spare way. And David, with the tightness of this field, to go 0.3 of a second faster than everybody else, that is a monster lap from George Boothby.
Absolutely brought that back out from the death. I mean, the thing is that what I love about that is George knew he had that sort of speed in the car and he waited right until the last moment to bring that out. That is a mental blow as well, Paul, to all the cars around him to say, look, I'm King Daddy here. Whether or not that translates into a good race performance, who knows, because it's Monza. We've still got turn 1 to deal with, but we pray to the race gods that we get a good turn 1 and we get a good race.
But I think we've all been there, haven't we, in a qualifying session, and you're looking, you're assessing the times, you say, okay, I've got a delta of 0.4 and I'm in 18th. Right, okay, I can make a 10th up, that'll move me up. And then suddenly someone comes in and finds 0.3 of a second, and you just look aghast and say, I don't know where that's come from. Everybody's pushing, everybody's separated by nothing, and then the likes of Boothby comes in, sets an incredible lap time, and that immediately, as a driver, puts you on the back foot coming into the race, doesn't it? You're immediately thinking, oh, this is going to be harder than I thought it was going to be. If you're going to set a quick lap in quali, set it right at the death, because that sticks in everybody's mind coming into the big moment that's the race.
Well, you're asking the wrong person on that one. When have I ever been within 0.3 of a second of like pole position? Come on now. But I get what you're saying there. Do it right then. It's like in other sports as well. You know, you want to do it right at the last possible minute to inflict massive emotional damage on the other competitors. It gets in their minds, and mind games are just a very effective way to do it. Also, let's face it, it's George bleeding Boothby. The lad is insanely fast, insanely talented, and we really shouldn't be surprised at all.
No, and the 992 needs a result. They were 4th at Paul Ricard, so they're dropping away slightly. The championship's 26 points for the Veloci McLaren versus 40 for the Williams Esports Chili Blast machine. So they need this big result. That's why Boothby's in the car here at Monza. Take advantage of favourable lack of compensation weight. Know that the driver's quick on the track, and just one job: go out there, take a win.
100%. The other driver that caught my eye was Oscar Hull in that Visceral Esports. Now, no, we waxed lyrical on about them in the qualifying, but with good reason. 10th position they finished that first round. An amazing turnaround, Paul, for them in that first race to get through here as we go onto the grid.
Yep.
So Here we go then. George Boothby in pole position. Wojtek Fiala in P2. Oscar Houle is going to be on row 2 alongside Warner in that McLaren. It's an all McLaren 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the 696 of Mikhail Statsenko in the ITB Esports machine, and then Tommy Rozier in the McLaren. 27, the number 27 McLaren in 6th position.
In 7th place is car number 157, yet another McLaren in the top 10, that's Leonid Makovikin. In 8th position, Marco Jonkers, we spoke a lot about the BMW in qualifying, fades to the average of 8th place in that session. The 812 is in 9th, that's Leon Harper, and then in 10th place, car number 17, Samuel Villa, another driver jumping into this championship for the first time this season. 11th place is Matthias Ladke in the 121. And in 12th position, the second of the Ferraris on our grid, it is 296 and Valentin Barrier.
Row 7 is going to be Tinko van der Vel leading up in the number 5 Audi alongside Luciano Witveit in the number 22 McLaren. Row 8 is going to be Leon Berndt in the 71 Ferrari alongside Michael Romagnoli in the 858 Lamborghini. It's then Sven Hettich in the 77 Lamborghini alongside David Pertil in the 85 McLaren on row 9.
Yet another McLaren, this is car number 137, they line up 19th on the grid, and that is Thomas Morant. 20th place, a Ferrari, number 72, Tim Peachman. 21st position is one of the four Lamborghinis in this race, that's the 125 of Benjamin Baumann. 22nd, a rare sight on this grid, it is of course an AMG Mercedes, car number 15th, another debutant in the championship, Pavlo Polovchuk. 23rd place, number 2, Andre McLear. 24th, a Lamborghini car 100 of Leon Seeley, and the last driver on the grid is the number 41 BMW that'll be coming on your seat screen in a moment, and that is Ivan Gerasimov. 25 cars, Monza, 45 minutes racing, no pit stops. What, David Christie, could possibly go wrong?
Answers on a postcard, please, ladies and gentlemen. We'll find out in the next minute and a half what could possibly happen here. Just give you a quick rundown of the top 5 in the championship so far here, Paul. Williams Esports Chill Blast, that number 55 car, leading the championship with 40 points. Williams Esports Razor in second place, number 5 car with 34 points. ITB Racing in the Lamborghini in the 696 is in third place with 29 points. Veloci McLaren, the 992, is in fourth place with 26 points, and then fifth place is that leading BMW and the number 1 car with 23 points. So those are some of the cars that you need to look out for through the course of this race here. The 55, the 5 and the 696 I think are going to be giving it the big guns really, I think, through this race.
Absolutely, and I would like to apologise to everybody at home. I know it's Williams Esports Chill Blast, but my brain will not let me say it and always calls it Chili Blast. So a big apology to Chill Blast. I know it's wrong, but I cannot stop doing it. Even though I've written it so big on this piece of paper, Chill Blast, it still comes out wrong. So my apologies to Williams Esports and Chill Blast for that one. Must try harder is the lesson from this formation lap for me.
To be fair, I mean, there's way worse things that you could do with that one. But Wojtek Fiala, somewhat trying to mount that 992 McLaren in front of George Boothby.
Yeah, that's frustrating when they do that, when it doesn't look good, but it's almost, that's a bit of strategy as well, David, isn't it? Annoy George Boothby, because it's irritating as a driver, it's irritating as a broadcaster, and anything you can do just to put George even just slightly off of his stride will help you coming into this race. Maybe it's not the coolest thing to do from Wojtek Fiala, but sometimes you've got to dig around in your armoury and use every tool at your disposal.
You absolutely do. Mind games, as I said a couple of minutes ago, absolutely key here. Big shout out to Alan Kensland on the YouTube chat as well, pointing out something that I completely forgot here. Wojtek Fiala in that 55, still in second place, Paul, with that 15 kilos of ballast. That is an amazing effort.
Yeah, that really is a very, very impressive effort. You suggested that Success Ballast maybe wouldn't be massively critical on this circuit. I thought it would have more of an impact, but obviously I forgot to filter in that Wojtek Fiala is a rather good racing driver indeed, it has to be said. So, talking time is almost over. It's 3:22 p.m. in-game time. The cars are slowly but surely working their way through the formation lap, coming into the final corner. I was stood on that grandstand just Sunday afternoon in the freezing cold rain. It's an interesting place to stand, actually. You don't see a great deal on Formula One style tracks. It's not ideal as a spectator, but good to see cars thrashing around at speed, and it's good to see in a virtual space George Boothby, Wojtek Fiala, Oscar Hull and Chris Warner, 1, 2, 3, 4, getting ready to go racing for the first time this evening in a 45-minute race of the ADAC Professional Trophy. 2x2 they go, running up to the line. All eyes will firmly be pinned on the starting lights. When they go out, we get loud and we go very fast indeed. Can Boothby hold on to this race lead? He accelerates as hard as he possibly can in the Veloci Esports McLaren 992 machine, goes to the outside line, tries to cover off Wojtek Fiala. Fiala hanging around on the outside. There is Oscar Hull in the red, white and black machine. Onto the brakes early is Oscar Hull, actually. Almost swallowed up, releases the brakes, has to go to the escape road. Wojtek Fiala does as well, and Oscar Hull has made a fool of himself. Stopped the car in the middle of the chicane. Will everybody make it round? And that could not have gone wrong for Oscar Hull in a more spectacular fashion.
I'm just got my suspicions on that one, as we've got a car just disappearing into the ether there. I had a feeling that Statsenko actually got caught up with that McLaren there and sent him round. We'll have to check out the replay on that one. Either way, it's been a cracking start there as Wojtek Fiala off into the distance. George Boothby has disappeared backwards very quickly indeed. But again, all eyes on that start there. It could have gone so much worse, and I'm really surprised that nobody actually hit that car that was stranded.
Yeah, my heart absolutely goes out to Oscar Hull. That is such a nightmare for the 44 car. Qualified so well, was hungry for a good result, and it can so easily happen at Monza. I really do feel for Oscar. He's in pit lane at this moment in time, so potentially there was more to that one than just a simple mistake, maybe some kind of mitigating circumstances. But the end result is that's a car out of this fight at the front of the field, and as you say, George Boothby into second position now. Statsenko once again tracking in the Lamborghini, and Makovikin in fourth place, and the 157 has a very nice start indeed.
Yep, that was a fantastic start from everyone else apart from Oscar Hull. Right now we're seeing a little bit of action further back through the field. It's the fight for 20th position downwards. You see Morant in there, Gerasimov just behind in the BMW. You've got Polovchuk, and Sealy Polovchuk was towards the back of the grid there, but did a grand job of making his way back up. Got contact, and Statsenko in the thick of it. Statsenko's been hit not once but twice right now, and he's dropped all the way down. We've got more chaos and carnage down at turn one. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Monza. Fasten your seatbelts. Let's get going. 2.5 minutes gone. Statsenko is going to get absolutely munched here right now. He's got Villa right there. Leon Hopp is trying to get in the mix here. Tinko van der Velde is going to want a piece here, and no surprises, Statsenko is absolutely furious. He drives like a man possessed. We've got chaos, and Paul, I'm going to close my eyes for a little minute here because this is starting to get a bit ugly.
Well, one of those cars that we saw making heavy contact into the barrier is our second place driver in the championship, Tinko van der Velde, for the Williams Esports Razor machine. So van der Velde caught up in all of the dramas. That's going to have a massive impact to his championship. You can see his name's got the P next to it. That means he's escaped too much damage to continue the race. This is surely going to be their drop score event. So real nightmare for Williams at the start of this race for Tinko van der Velde into retirement. Wojtek Fiala in second place, though, that we're watching, tracking George Boothby at the front of the field. Nightmare.
So just hearing that Fiala has given the position back to Boothby because he was told that he was out of position there, Paul. So great sportsmanship to get that done. So he cut chicane, took the position from Boothby, and has actually given that back. So that's great sportsmanship to see. But as you said, I mean, more chaos and carnage. That last lap round there, one of our title contenders getting wiped out in the form of Tinko van der Velde, and again without the benefit of replays here, I am going to throw my my thought behind the fact that is 2 incidents now that Statsenko has been very much at the epicenter of here. I'm again just going back to my memory of that start line incident, come down into turn 1. Statsenko, if I remember rightly, went for a move on the left-hand side, and Oscar Hull decided to brake a little bit earlier. He was just being a little bit cautious there, and just got sent into that chicane here, as we're seeing Leon Seeley coming down into that second chicane here. Again, this is what it means for these drivers and these teams.
Yeah, absolutely. The SOP eSports racing machine of Leon Seeley makes the move, gets the elbows out, a little bit of rubbing, is a little bit of racing, but no harm, no foul. Morant survives that one as well, as he's been dropped down into 21st position. Seeley, of course, has got Pavlo Polovchuk just ahead in the sole AMG Mercedes car. So Polovchuk representing AMG. But let's take another look now at exactly what happened into the second chicane. We see a couple of cars at the back of your shot going wide, and then all hell breaks loose. And there is Tinko van der Velde, collected in the biggest way possible. David, completely innocent in that manoeuvre. Wrong place, wrong time. Hello, barrier.
Yeah, that's a very, very awkward incident to be caught up in. But this is sim racing. This is what happens when you're running among these level of drivers here, is that accidents can and do happen. You get very little notice of it, as we're watching Marco Jonkers here for West Competition Racing in the number 1 BMW on to the back there of Makovkin in that 157. McLaren gets very, very late there. There was another McLaren up the inside of Tommy Rozier. Rozier gets the inside line, and that number 27, a little bit of afters after it. He's going to have to watch out, because here comes Warner trying to sneak up the inside as well.
Yeah, that was a nice opportunistic overtake from Tommy Rozier. Warner, though, throws the car to the outside. He's just trying to find a way past that BMW. Does the switchback, gets the inside now, tries to trick Marco Jonkers, does Warner, and gets the position as well. So Marco Jonkers starting to go backwards in the BMW, a shake of the head. He knows that he has been taken for a mug on that one, really. Great driving for Chris Warner. Put the car one side of the track, then the other, and then switch back again right at the very death. Beautiful, beautiful driving from Warner. But Marco Jonkers now on the rearward action, because there's that man, Mikhail Statsenko, still recovering in 7th position.
That was really cheeky by Chris Warner, but absolutely within the letter and within the spirit of everything right now. The BMW having to slow down and put on the anchors, couldn't turn in, and you know that McLaren was faster. That, let's make no bones about that. Cars 55 and 992, so that's Boothby and Fiala. No further action because the position is returned. So yeah, great to see that sportsmanship and race control deciding they don't need to get involved, because it was resolved before they even had a chance. Now back to Mikhail Statsenko, the man driving like a man possessed right now. I've got no doubt that he is going to get past that BMW by the time that we get down to turn 1 here.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking at Leon Hopper for Gridfinder Racing at this moment in time. Hopper, plenty of experience, no stranger to the world of this level of competition. But come back to that one in a minute, because Mikhail Statsenko is on the charge. He runs out of space, has to get on the anchors. That compromises him massively on the exit of the chicane. So Villa trying to find a way past. Leon Hopper didn't get the run that I expected him to have in the Gridfinder machine, so he's trying to charge on. But look who's behind. It's Burnt in the 71 Ferrari. Burnt fancies his chances. He's watching this race with interest, as Statsenko again on the charge, looks at the outside on this occasion, tries to get the run through the chicane, succeeds very firmly indeed, and he now has the inside line. The Ferrari absolutely will concede that position. Mikhail Statsenko moves himself back in to 7th place, but I've got a feeling, David, this one's going to yo-yo for a little while longer yet. Yeah,
he was defended, because that was Villa actually got ahead of him, and that's him just snatching that position back. But Marco Jonkers, I think, his patience just ran out. You saw him saying absolutely no way after him getting mugged at that last lap by Chris Warner, and decided he is not going to be Mr. Nice Guy anymore, and refused to let Statsenko have that position, which he's absolutely entitled to do there. So the BMW keeps on to that 6th position, and that drops Statsenko in a whole world of pain, because have a look at David Pertile as well, as we've got chaos again, as we've got one of the cars rejoining back on the circuit. I think that was the Ferrari. Was that Leon Burnt that was in the middle of all that there, Paul?
Yeah, massive drama at Ascari, but I just want to go away from that one for a second and thank our audience here on YouTube. I am hearing from Jason Kellaway that Oscar had a disconnect into T1, which explains the peculiar parking of the car on the exit. So even worse luck for Oscar Hull. A disconnect brings his race to a very unlucky end.
Yeah, it really does. And we're watching Samuel Villa there just getting passed by David Pertile. And, well, again, that almost seemed like it was an organised move there from Samuel Villa. Don't know if he wanted to give that position back there because he's immediately going for the retake here. Meanwhile, that means that Mikhail Statsenko does get to go on there. And here we go then. So 8th and 9th position there, shoved out unceremoniously into the gravel trap there. And you can take your niceness and your politeness. And, well, there we go. Luciano Vitvoit for Rocket Sim Sport trying to catch back onto the back of Leon Seeley here.
Yeah, this is a nice little race now. Vitvoit looks to the inside, runs out of room, has to slot back in again. And unlike Paul Ricard, David, we've seen a lot of drivers looking at unrealistic manoeuvres, having to back out and then making themselves vulnerable to the pack behind. There's a slight air of, and I hesitate to say this because it's slightly unfair, but there's an air of desperation from many of these drivers, it feels, in these opening few laps. Desperate to try and find a way past, and now Vitvoit looks to the outside line through Ascari. That one's not going to work. Wisely thinks better of it, tracks Leon Seeley in front and tries to get the run now down this back straight into the curve of Michele Alboreto. Will the Rocket Sim Sports McLaren have enough grunt in a straight line to overcome that Lamborghini? It's going to be a tall ask. Vitvoit goes to the outside line. Seeley covers the inside line. Positions stay as they are for now.
It's a difficult one because I don't think you're wrong in saying desperation. That's certainly how it appeared. It's always difficult the first sort of 5-10 minutes of a race here, but this even more so as we're seeing some very, very questionable decisions being taken by some of the drivers here. You can see just behind there Leon Hopp trying to get involved with that as well. You can see Peachman and Contact, and there goes the Yaz Heat car of Valentin Barrier as we get some of our first race control messages. Warning to car 111, that's Chris Warner for gaining an advantage off track. The 157 get a 15-second time penalty. That's Makovkin for causing a collision with a 696, so it was Makovkin that hit Statsenko on lap 2.
And Valentin Barrier, courtesy of that contact that we've just seen, elects to go to pit lane. I was going to comment on how badly damaged that Ferrari looks from all the dramas in the opening lap, but Valentin Barrier, I was watching that one, David, as you were talking. He was on the defensive and then all of a sudden made a pass and almost went for a second one, but sadly contact was made. Around she goes, and Valentin is out of this race. Mattis Ladke that we're looking at now in the Thomas Enger Sim Racing 121 car. He's in a nice little battle pack, looks to the inside, thinks better off it. Sean Hettich still ahead of him, but a 77 under increasing pressure, and then that's Baumann in the 125 behind as well, keeping a very interested eye on how this one progresses.
I'm gutted for that 157 of Makovkin, Paul, because again that almost completely destroys their race here with half an hour left to go, and it's such a shame to see. But again, it comes down to the comment we were making there about the questionable decisions, and do you really have to go for it? It's different if you're all bunched in together and you don't have any time to react, but a lot of these incidents here we've seen of just poor decision making skills from some of these drivers here, as we see Hladky and Hettich going side by side down the start-finish straight here. Does Hladky have enough pace here? You get the feeling that the Lamborghini is going to try and ease it in onto the brakes here. The two of them are going to go side by side here. But surely, I was thinking Hladky was going to have to give that position back to the Lamborghini, but they're still side by side. And have a look there, because Baumann wants a piece of this as well. Somehow Hladky has had the ability and the traction in that McLaren, Paul, to go all the way around the outside. I thought that was going to be done and dusted already.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant stuff from Matthias Ladke, although the Lamborghini has him on the brakes, but the McLaren, by virtue of having the inside line, takes the advantage, takes the position away, and now Hettich and Baumann are as one behind. Two Lamborghinis, the same car, different teams, different setups, and of course, different drivers, but they're squabbling over the same piece of tarmac. As we circle back to the front of the field, we've not spoken about these too much because they're breaking away from the pack. George Boothby's still our leader, but Wojtek Fiala feels a little bit like he's starting to take the gloves off and make an attack on the lead McLaren.
Yeah, he's closed in quite considerably over the last couple of laps. We're hearing from our broadcast team there. And the thing is that Wojtek Fiala doing everything that's needed here just to ratchet up that pressure lap by lap here. He doesn't have to worry about Makovkin or Rozier. They're millions of miles back, or it might as well be for the purposes of this race right now. He just has to focus on that car in front. But again, we've got a seasoned professional here, a multiple champion in the form of George Boothby behind the wheel there. He knows exactly how to handle that car. He knows exactly how to cope with pressure. So for me, this is the time in which you nip to the kitchen, get the popcorn, put it in the microwave, because we are going to have 30 minutes of this, whatever we've got to unfold.
Yeah, absolutely. Wojtek Fiala has got to work incredibly hard indeed if he's got any aspiration of finding a way past George Boothby ahead. At the moment, the 55 seems content to follow in the wheel tracks of the 992. And let's remember, Wojtek Fiala, 15 kilos weight on the car, doesn't seem to be affecting lap time, but that will put further stress on the tyres, further stress on the car, make it harder to keep the pace over the course of the stint. As Leon Seeley for SOP Esports Racing is in the thick of the battle again. A little kiss to the side of the car, that sends Seeley over the escape road, position lost. And is that also going to be another position from the Rocket McLaren? Yes, it is. So Leon Seeley getting rather ham-fistedly pushed aside there.
That's an elegant way of putting it. I had some cruder words that I was going to use there, but then remembered that we're on a broadcast here, so no chance of using it. Right, that gap's opened up very, very slightly between Fiala and Boothby, so we'll keep an eye on that. But it feels like all these little pockets of battles everywhere going on just now. Bauman, Hettich, Polovchik, and Vitvoit. It seems to be a cracking little fight going on there for 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th. And I wonder where Wojtek Fiala that we're running on board with here really seems to be making up the time. I think it's under braking, especially into to turn one here, Paul.
Yeah, I'd have to agree as well. It's a limited slipstream that you have in a GT3 car in ACC, but it is still there. There is still benefits to be gained. Fiala benefits from that all the way down the long back straight, as you say, also much more confident on the brakes into the first chicane for good measures. Now, we are looking at Luciano Wittwert in 17th position. Wow! That Rocket Sim Sports car got the overlap then to the outside of the AMG Mercedes of Pavlo Polovchuk. They are as one into the chicane. Wittwert runs out of racetrack, so does the Mercedes ahead, and Leon Seeley thinks, thank you boys, I will take that, thank you very much. A brush of the hands, and he's got himself 2 positions and a healthy bit of track as well.
Yeah, again, I'm watching the McLaren give that position back, and I'm kind of scratching my head a little bit, because for me the pair of them went off, so nobody gained an advantage over the other one there. But I guess it's just sportsmanship. As here we go, battle for the lead there, Paul. Thanks very much for pointing that one out there, because this is starting to get very, very tasty indeed. As what a move by Fiala right round the outside, as if George Boothby is even on the track.
You're going to have to tell me what happened, because I crawled under my desk when that was taking part. Wojtek Fiala takes the brave pills and with it the race lead. But look at George Boothby. He has not given this one up. To the outside of the curve of Michele Alboreto. He'll try and nip the car back to the apex again. Very close to the back of Fiala's McLaren ahead. Hopefully for him, the slipstream will pay dividends down this back straight. And David, this is lining up to retake that race lead once again immediately after being passed.
Now, this is the issue here, is the two of these are going to fight over each other, trip themselves up. Look at Makovkin again. That's what a second taking out this lead fight already. This is going to drag everyone in as Boothby tries to go around the outside, can't quite do it, but Fiala struggles to get traction here, and this is exactly what's going to happen. We're now going to have a 3-4-5 car battle for the leads. Oh my goodness me. You said that you were hiding under your desk when that happened. I was shouting at the monitor when that happened, when you were talking there.
Yeah, that was a beautiful bit of driving from both drivers. You just saw a little bit of movement under braking from Fiala as he's trying to control the car, trying to give himself and Boothby enough racing room to deliver that overtake. And Wojtek Fiala, very, very nice driving. George Boothby as well, from the pair of them as they swap positions again. Boothby now is back in the lead, but Fiala will take heart from this one. He knows he can find a way past that 992 machine. The big question now, David, and it's the Monza question that happens every single race. When do you want to have that lead position? Because the second you're in front, you are massively vulnerable to that slipstream. You almost want to do it as late as possible as Leon Berndt for Renwelton Esports rejoins the racetrack.
Well, I think Fiala might have just shown his cards a little bit early there to Boothby, because Boothby's now going to be like, all right, okay, yeah, come on then, let's have a go. Boothby also immediately knows that if Fiala does make a go, he has a chance to immediately fire back. That's how strong the slipstream is here. But again, for me, the pair of them need to realise 25 minutes to go, lads. Let's just concentrate on building a buffer to Makovkin, to Rozier, to Warner behind. Then you can fight in the final 10 minutes, but it's not going to go down like that. We can see that as the two of them weaving from side to side as Boothby tries to go earlier onto the brakes. Fiala goes a little bit later, but again, they're tripping each other up here.
Yeah, this is, as you say, this is very quickly going to bring the chasing pack into contention. Makovkin, not too concerned about him. He has that 15-second time penalty against him, so he's not in contention as Michael Romagnoli that we're looking at now. Romagnoli in the 858, too wide into the chicane. The 912 has the inside. Romagnoli has the outside. Cannot accelerate on the curbs, and the Lamborghini can't get that power down just enough at this moment in time. But back to the front fight. Fiala knows he's got to do something special. He knows he's got to make a move if he's wanting to win this race, because as you say, Rozier, Warner, Llong, Statsenko and everybody else, 3 or 4 laps of this, and they're going to be right in contention for this charge at the front.
The other thing that I've noticed as well, Paul, I think track limits is going to possibly play a part in this towards the end of the race. I'm seeing them being very, very liberal with the use of the track limits here at Monza, which are already very generous anyway here. But again, all it takes is just a couple of missed opportunities, a couple of mistakes and following the car in front, and then suddenly you can be hit with a penalty. But have a look at that. Makovkin, Rozier and Warner, they're all working together to try and bring themselves up towards this group battle here. Still 3 seconds behind right now. Fiala, again, I think he just took his, he took the pressure off a little bit so he can get a good run out of this Michele Alboreto curve here to get the run on the Boothby. And again, 23 minutes left to go. It's all going to be on turn 1.
Beautiful camera action there from Steve Proudley, our broadcast director, as we run down at maximum velocity into this difficult first chicane. Look how the car dips forward on the brakes. Everybody has to brake as late as possible to the absolute grip limit of adhesion in these cars in order to not give time away. But what is curious to me, Boothby looks like, or certainly on that lap, he's able to get the power down a little bit better than Wojtek Fiala behind. Fiala seems to have the stopping power, but Boothby seems to have the launch from the corners, which equates to a very even battle indeed.
It certainly does, and race control still on lap 2, if you can believe it. The 696 and the 17, that was Villa and Statsenko. That was determined to be a racing incident between them. And I've just noticed David Pertile in the 85 McLaren getting a stop-go 30-second time penalty. That is goodbye to any hope of a decent performance in this race. That's a huge, huge penalty, and that is for an unsafe rejoin with the contact with that 296. So, and that's still lap 2. I mean, we're on lap 12 now, so you can only imagine how many incidents that race control are having to go and look through just now here.
Yeah, it was an incredibly, shall we say, dramatic first few laps in this race, is a generous way to put it. So great work as always from our team in race control, sifting through each and every bit of drama, look at it from all angles, taking all the data on board, and then making their judgments based on what they see as Wojtek Fiala loses the rear of the car as well to gather it together. But that's going to spike the temperature in those rear Pirellis, and Fiala now will take a few corners to calm everything back down, and that is just the advantage that Boothby needs. Boothby will know now he's got at minimum 1 lap where he doesn't need to worry about Fiala and can concentrate on getting those times in gapping the car behind and gapping that chasing pack led by Makovkin, which they're doing very nicely indeed, as they made half a second on the last tour.
Sorry, Paul, did you say a dramatic start to the race or a traumatic start to the race? Because I think in this situation, I think both apply equally on that one with 20 minutes left to go. There'll be some drivers in here who honestly will be happy to see the end of it, as Chris Warner side by side then with Makovkin, who's lost the position to Tommy Rozier. So Rozier, oh, that was a big slide from the 157 of Makovkin, a little bit of afters after it, and the two of them really not giving anything here. Warner going well wide there, and that is going to bring Marco Jonkers into the mix as well. The two of them four of them even can kiss goodbye any hope of catching up Wojtek Fiala and George Boothby right now.
Yeah, absolutely. But points for effort from Chris Warner there, trying to get past the plain white car ahead of him. Chris Warner, 5th position. Marco Jonkers been a little bit subdued, it's fair to say, over the course of the start of this race. We expected that car to be very much in the thick of it, but slowly but surely the number one BMW is making his way through the pack. 6th position on track, but Makovkin, as we say, is going to be, in effect, out of this challenge when the 15-second time penalty is applied. So what you're seeing here is a race for 4th and 5th place between Chris Warner and Marco Jonkers, as Makovkin again very deep at the curve of Michele Alboreto. That's putting him back under pressure now to the RDA Community Team 111 car. Warner has a massive run. He's going to have the overlap. Goes to the outside line as Makovkin, as is his right, covers the inside line. Bit of stupidity there from Makovkin as well. Kissing down the straight, but Warner, can he hold on to position? Secondary contact between the two of them. Makovkin really needs to know that this is not worth your trouble. Get out of the fight. You're doing yourself absolutely no good whatsoever. But Chris Warner, elbows firmly out, gets that position, at least for now anyway.
Makovkin's going to make a dive. You just know it. He's going to make a dive to the inside. You can tell from the body language, the aggression. I always love it when cars somehow manage to find themselves coming together on a straight. It's like, how can you even do that? Makovkin straight into the car there. And again, you just saw it happening. Now, any other car or every other car would slow down and let that position go there. But again, that is pure emotion that you're seeing behind the wheel there, Paul. It's amazing because like, when you do that, people think, oh, you're an amazing commentator. You can tell exactly what's going to happen. It's like, no, you can read the body language of the car. You can see the way the driver is driving that car, at which point they're using it as a weapon. They feel aggrieved. They feel hard done by. And he's absolutely raging at that point. And of course, that's going to happen here. And the thing is now, Warner's going to feel hard done by as well. So they're going to come into contact again. I've got no doubt about that. One of these two cars is going to end up permanently retiring from the race into the wall.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to try and remain diplomatic and not let my true feelings show for what was that particular incident. But let's put it this way, Leonid Makovkin, I am not his biggest fan at this moment in time. He needs to get his head screwed back onto his shoulders in that 157 car and recognise that that kind of aggression is not appropriate in a race like this. And Chris Warner is going to have a second go at this hot lappers machine. Warner, you can see there, closing on the slipstream nice and early, shows his car to the outside, then tries to go to the inside. Makovkin moves very aggressively to the inside. Can the 111 find his way around without contact? There's a little bit of a kiss between the two, and a secondary and a third contact. Makovkin don't run into the rear quarter, no he doesn't, and that opens the door for Mikhail Stetsenko, ever the hunter killer, trying to find his way around the outside and takes what should be a relatively easy pass. Once we've got through the Curva Grande, there we go. Makovkin loses 2 positions, all because of massively unnecessary aggression.
Oh, say it how you say it, Paul.
That was me holding back.
I could tell that was you very, very restrained in that one. And honestly, you're watching this with your head behind your hands at this point, because you're like, I mean, there's so many bits that you can pick up on. Like for me, Makovkin's 15-second penalty, I didn't even notice what that was for. That could be for one of 15,000 things at that point. That start-finish line alone was absolutely criminal. The 3 different times he moved over when the car was making a move. I mean, that is just straight up blocking. You cannot do that in a race like this. So yeah, he's got his just desserts from that one. He will get absolutely destroyed from race control for that one. However, I feel bad for Chris Warner now, because the monster that is Mikhail Statsenko is all up on the back end of him right now. Although, have a look at Makovkin, goes wide. I think that car's day is done, to be honest.
Yep, I would absolutely agree with you now, but Statsenko fancies his chances, gets a great run through Alboreto, now is firmly in the slipstream of Chris Warner. Warner, being the attacker on the last occasion in this corner, knows exactly how to defend the inside line, stays firmly to the inside, gives Statsenko no opportunity to sneak up the inside, starts to drift back to the racing line as well, but Statsenko, brave driver that he is, keeps his foot firmly on the loud pedal, but doesn't have the overlap. The McLaren holds on to that position, but this one again, David, just like we saw a few moments ago when Marco Yonkers was the one under attack, now Chris Warner is the man on defence, but Statsenko looks like he's got a faster and slightly more confident car underneath him. It's just a small matter of finding a Lamborghini-sized hole in which to plonk that car through.
It's a small matter of Chris Warner in front and the big matter of Makovkin behind, who's catching right back up to this battle here. Meanwhile, Marco Yonkers is now 3.3 seconds off at the distance. Like, yeah, see you guys, you just do you, I'm going to do me right now. This is... I do have a horrible feeling. Meanwhile, also, while we've been completely fascinated by that, Wojtek Fiala now 1.7 seconds behind George Boothby. So Boothby's lit the touch paper and decided to absolutely get on with it, as well as an incident between the 85 and the 17 on lap 6. That is David Pertil and Vera. That is a racing incident on that one. Race control now on lap 6, 10 laps ago, as this is coming down the backstretch here, and somehow again contact. I don't know how, Paul. How can you make contact with a track that you've got you can easily get 4 cars wide on?
It beggars belief, and Mikhail Statsenko, because of that contact, runs wide through Alboreto, opens the door for Makovkin to get a pull on along the inside. Makovkin gets the great run, it has to be said, and he's going to have another nibble at Chris Warner into T1. Statsenko, though, benefits from a double slipstream, fancies his chances, and Makovkin onto the brakes, allows Statsenko back through, doesn't want to get involved in this one. So nice bit of driving there from Makovkin in the 157 to take himself out of this fight, which is absolutely the right thing to do, as Matthias Ladke in the 121 has the outside, then the inside, has the position. The Thomas Enger Sim Racing 121 car takes that place away from Michael Romagnoli, but Romagnoli has a tow rope attached to the back of it, flashy lights as well. This is the Italian's chance to fight back almost immediately.
Yeah, he tried to get the cut back out of that first corner there, wasn't quite able to make it happen there. You can see side by side then, but Ladke closes that door and says, sorry, not today, my friend. But the Lamborghini again gets a good run out of that corner here. You get the feeling the Lamborghini does have the upper hand here, but yet again, as we've seen throughout all of the field here, it's the McLaren that just seems to know exactly where it needs to plant itself right now. That seems to be the key here, as a penalty for the number 77 car, that's Sven Hettich, for causing a collision with the 296 car. And yeah, well, again, we're just seeing many penalties coming in here, as we see George Boothby, a car that we've not seen really for the past 10 minutes at all.
And as a driver and as a team, that's exactly what you want from a broadcaster. You want to never see them because they're doing nothing interesting apart from lapping their way to the checkered flag. And George Boothby very firmly justifying the faith placed in him by the Veloci Esports team to put him in for this Monza round. The 992 will be serenely on their way with 12 minutes and 30 seconds left on the clock to the checkered flag. Last time around, Boothby a 46.962, and just behind Fiala a 46.957. So lap times separated by nothing, just a small matter of 1.7 seconds worth of fresh air between our two race leaders.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, with 12 minutes left to go, I think Fiala will happily take that second position there. They're really happy with the points that they get from the championship from that, as we see Andre Leclerc here for the sister competition car, the West Competition Racing BMW, the number 2 car, down there in 19th position, going side by side with, I believe that's Gerasimov, as up the inside there's Leon Berndt as well, trying to make fools of the pair of them, slides it on by in the Rennfelden car in 21st position up to P20. Beautiful move there, as we see another warning being given out to Michael Romagnoli. There's final warning actually for colliding with Villa there, and again thin ice now for a lot of these cars.
I will say, I will raise my virtual hat to Leon Berndt there. That was a nice bit of opportunistic driving, very clean from the Ferrari driver as well to take that position. So lovely stuff as Mikhail Statsenko continues to charge forward in the ITB Esports Lamborghini, although he gets very squirrely over the curbs at Ascari, manages to survive that incident. If anything, in fact, he's possibly even closed a couple of meters on Chris Warner. So can the Lamborghini find a way past with 11 minutes left to go for 5th and 6th position on the racetrack? They've cleared everybody, David, that has penalties, so this is an outright race for position between these two.
Well, what's going to happen in my sort of crystal ball here in the next 10 minutes is Statsenko and Warner are going to fight again over each other. That's going to bring Makovkin in towards the fight again, and he's going to come in like a wrecking ball in the last lap and just wipe everybody out.
Nice. Can I just do a bit of a shout out as well to Oscar Hull? Remember, Oscar had that issue at the first corner due to a disconnect, 2 laps down, but credit where it is due. He is reconnected, got back on the server and continues to race around. I really like to see that one as Thomas Morant now in 17th position has the run on Leon Seeley. Seeley heavily defensive in the Lamborghini, has the inside line but doesn't have the speed overlap. Morant around the outside in the McLaren. Be careful on the apex, they give each other racing room. Nice bit of driving. Thomas Morant takes the position away.
Yeah, see, that for me is an example of how it should be done. Seeley let that happen. Seeley, and I don't mean Seeley just let him take the position, but Seeley let the overtake happen. And that is part of the skill of being a racing driver, is the ability to, know when and where to pick your fights. That is the key thing for that. And Seeley, I think, did a grand job of that. It's for 17th position. It's not for the race win. What I have just noticed, though, Paul, what a performance from Leon Berndt, getting past Gerasimov now, and so he's done both of those BMWs. Hang on, are you kidding me? Oscar Hull, the man you were just talking about a second ago, has just taken the fastest lap of the race, and he's 2 laps down.
And that's all the more tragic because the 44 and Oscar Hull had so much pace coming into this race. I said it at the time and I'll say it again, my heart absolutely goes out to that team, the Visceral Esports machine. But again, and I really do want to labour this point to the point of being borderline boring with it, to come back into the race and continue to race to show respect to your competitors and the event organisers by continuing to participate. Massive credit to the 44, the Visceral Esports team, for continuing to race. I really do like to see that one. I'm a big fan of respect, and that shows big respect from Oscar Hull.
Well, the thing as well is the fact that they disconnected and they're down there, but they're not last. That shows everything on what they've got to go. And the thing is that they might even get themselves up realistically in the top 20. We've got a lot of chaos still to come here in the final 8 minutes here. We're watching Andrea McLear. Who knows what's going to happen with him and Gerasimov, because this little fight has been brewing for the past couple of laps as well. We saw Gerasimov being very opportunistic there as McLear sticks it up the inside there, clips the curb, has to leave off there, and the two of them still going to be side by side here. Again, I don't like the way this is going here. A little bit of unnecessary contact with the two of them.
Yeah, McLear has the outside line. Gerasimov has the inside line, the shortest run around the Curva Grande, but that puts him on the outside for the second chicane. McLear gets the deal done on the brakes, though. Gerasimov tries to force the fellow BMW off the road. Sven Hettich is facing the wrong way. The number 77 Get Closer racing car desperately trying to find a gap in traffic, but that is probably one of the most soul-destroying things that can happen as a driver, David. You made a mistake, you want to get the car back on the racetrack, and you just can't find a gap to safely recover.
Yeah, but to be fair to Sven Hettich, absolute plaudits for the fact that he's just kept that car pinned. He's kept it stopped there, waiting for a space in the traffic. God, I wish that we saw that every single time it happened. But, I mean, look, we got a penalty for the number 85 of David Pertil for exactly that one here. Right, Makov getting absolutely spanked by race control here. The incident on lap 14 with the 27, that was seen as a racing incident. The incident with the number 111, that's Chris Warner, 5-second time penalty to the 157 for causing a collision. Well, I'm going to be honest, he should get a lottery ticket because he was very lucky on that one.
I'm being diplomatic. Moving on. Mikhail Statsenko in 6th place, doing good work for ITV. Still chasing down Chris Warner. We've only got 6.5 minutes left on the clock, and I think Chris Warner has had a rummage around and found himself a bit of lap time, because that gap is looking still relatively healthy to what we know is a very rapid Lamborghini behind. So Warner soaking up that pressure like a sponge and is doing everything he needs to consolidate his 5th place on the track.
Yeah, if I'm honest, I think Statsenko was only able to catch up to the back end of that car because of all the chaos that was going on with Makovkin, and Warner now able to open up the taps, as it were, on that McLaren and show its true pace. It's no surprise to see 3 McLarens leading this race right now. Boothby in the lead, Wojtek Fiala starting to come back a little bit, actually. I've just noticed that there. That gap was up to about 1.9 seconds. It's back down to 1.2, but I fear that is just George Boothby managing the pace on this race, or is it? It's down to 1.1 now, Paul. What's your thoughts on that?
Looking at the lap times, last time they crossed the line, Fiala had a 46.892, Boothby a 46.937. So as we've seen before, it's fractions of a tenth here and there between the two of them. For me, I think Boothby's got another gear if he needs it. I think Fiala, as you said 10-15 minutes ago, will be very content indeed, thank you very much, with second position, considering that 15 kilos of weight on board the car. Also considering that number 5 came into this race second in the championship, and they're in pit lane and out of the event. So yeah, I think the 55 will be more than happy to pick up and run that points advantage.
I think they're going to be even more delighted knowing that other title contender, Mikhail Statsenko, down there in 6th place, labouring that fight with the 111 of Chris Warner right now. So again, these, it took 5th and 6th position, but it's still quite a significant difference in the points when it comes to just two more rounds left to go in this championship. We've got our last remote one coming up next week, and then the finals at the SimRacing Expo as well. It just sets itself up for an incredible final round.
Yeah, it really does. We love this kind of thing, and if you love it at home, thank you for watching on the ADAC SimRacing Expo YouTube and Twitch channel. There's plenty more where this came from. We're back again October the 3rd at the Nurburgring Grand Prix circuit, so make a note of that one in your diaries, or however you make notes of these things. Nobody uses post-it notes anymore, do they? Or not real ones anyway. So do make a note of that one, because this has been a very intense, a short David championship, but goodness me, do we fill it with intensity in the short 4 races that we've got.
Oh, absolutely. It's made up for it. No doubt whatsoever. The action has just been so strong. I mean, Paul Ricard, I still say, was one of the greatest races that we've had this year. It was so enjoyable to watch. This has been a little bit more temperamental, but it's still been a really, really good race. Some good results out of it and some good points scored by a lot of the teams, especially when you look at, say, Boothby, Fiala and Razier as well. As we're back to watching Matthias Ladke just behind Peachman in that second Renfeld car, eyeing up a move up the inside. Peachman blinks first there, and that is going to allow Ladke to slip up the inside there. Maybe a little bit naughty with that contact there, but it was completely unintentional from that 1-2-1. Takes that position, and again, you've got to say, Peachman, if he desperately wanted to fight for that position, he could have caused all sorts of problems for Ladke there. But again, it's just knowing when that race is done.
Yeah, and also for Peachman, he knows he's got the 15-second time penalty. The smart play at this stage is, if there's a faster car behind, just lose as little time as humanly possible. Let the car clear you, follow him, see if you can get some benefit, and just try and minimise the effects that 15-second time penalty will have. By the way, the cloaking system has been employed on Marco Jonker's car, because in my mind, I've just completely made him invisible on the timing screens and become rather shocked that the West Competition Racing Machine is up into 4th, and not only that, he's trying to paint himself onto the back of Tommy Razier. What a very nice drive from Marco Jonkers. And that BMW, unlike what we've seen so many times before as it fades at the end of the race, seems to be very firmly on its tippy toes and trying to find a way past for the podium.
Yeah, I think the BMW's done a grand job of holding on to its tyres towards this end stint of the race here. It just seems to have the straight line speed over the McLaren, but again, it's whether or not it can do anything in these final 2 laps here. Jonkers, I think, is going to be delighted they got the upper hand back on Chris Warner for that earlier move where we saw Warner taking advantage of Jonkers' good nature there and getting past, then caught up in that chaos with Makovkin. But now, as you said here, this could be very, very tasty indeed. I think that race control, from what we're seeing here, this is going to be the final message of the race. I'd imagine any other penalties are going to be decided post-race. For me, though, with Marco Jonkers, is he going to try and make a move here? Absolutely. You want that podium. It's completely different if you're going for first and second place because you've got your eyes on the championship. But for West Competition Racing, they want every single morsel of points that they can get from this championship. So they will absolutely be fighting Tommy Rozier every inch of this track right now with 50 seconds left to go.
Absolutely, and I think the more I see of Marco Jonkers, the more impressed I am of the driver. Obviously, West Competition Racing put a good car on the racetrack, do a good job, supported Marco, but just the way he races, he doesn't do anything ridiculous, he's not full of drama, he's just effective, and affection is exactly what he's done there. Thank you very much. I'll get the neat line through Ascari, I'll be intelligent on corner exit, and Tommy Rozier opens the door that Marco Jonkers very gratefully walks through to highlight perfectly the point that I am trying to make. Jonkers, there's no drama, there's no fanfare around him. He just delivers exactly what he needs to deliver, but he knows how to get the elbows out and he knows how to race, and that's worked wonders from 8th on the grid to 3rd on the track in a very respectful and gentlemanly way. Nice. Clinical
pressure applied by Marco Jonkers in that West Competition Racing BMW. Beautiful stuff there. You saw just in the background Mikhail Stasenko trying to have a little look on Chris Warner, but it's all eyes, Paul, on George Boothby for Veloci Esports, the final lap of the race. And again, apart from that early drama where we saw Fiala and Boothby swapping those positions back, then we saw a little bit of a set 2 with the 2 of them for what was at most 3 laps fighting it out here. George Boothby has absolutely had this one.
But look how much he's got it under control. You can see him talking to his teammates. He even had time just to adjust the webcam to make sure it's not fallen out of position, ready for the post-race interview. Boothby, we've seen him so many times in so many competitions as one of the absolute best of the best of the best esport drivers. And he's had a race of everything today. It's not been run away at the front, as you say, David. Elbows out, get some good racing done, and have lightning pace when he needed it.
Just noticed as well, Statsenko has finally got past Chris Warner there for that 5th position. So the 696 getting what could be crucially a couple of extra points in the championship here. But it's down to the final corner for our race leader, George Boothby.
So Boothby now for Veloci Esports for the final time through the curve at Michele Alboreto. The 992 McLaren 720S Evo accelerates out of the last turn, looks to the line. There is Boothby waving to the camera. That has been a commanding race victory for Veloci Esports. Big celebrations from George Boothby. Beautiful scenes in what was a sensational race victory from Wojtek Fihala, and Marco Jonkers, effective as always for West Competition Racing, rounds out our podium.
Tommy Rozier's going to be feeling very hard done by there to lose out on that 3rd position. But Chris Warner, that is huge. Warner getting that position back, getting P5 back on that final lap from Mikhail Statsenko. Makovkin in 7th position, Vela in 8th, Leon Hopp in 9th, and Ladke in 10th. That's your top 10, but I mean, again, it may not have been as completely packed of action as Paul Ricard, but certainly got bang for your buck there.
Oh, absolutely outstanding. Polovchuk as well there at the very death manages to find his way past Leon Burnt to take the position away. And David, Monza can be one of 2 things. In virtual and real racing, to be fair, it can be absolutely glorious or an absolute disaster. And that was a middle ground, but eking more towards the glorious side of the spectrum, methinks.
Well, I mean, that was despite some drivers determined to actually get that latter part of it. They were determined to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory throughout many points of this race, Paul. But again, just seeing there the McLaren going off and getting caught up in the middle of that race there, disconnecting, and that explains why we saw so many cars going straight through it. And again, just such a wonderful, wonderful race here.
Yeah, really disappointing there for Oscar Hull to have that disconnect so early in the race. That is Mikhail Statsenko and some of the many dramas that have befallen the Lamborghini driver. He managed to recover, though, as we saw, right to the very checkered flag. Contact, sadly, has been the order of the day throughout the field. This is one of our championship contenders, Tinko van der Velde, exiting in unceremonious fashion, courtesy of an incident completely outside of his control. Our virtual spectators at the first chicane have been in for a treat this race. We've seen good overtakes, we've seen dubious overtakes, and we've seen downright idiocy over the course of this race. But here's one of the more dramatic moments as we're looking to the outside of the Curva Grande, another popular place to pass. Here at Monza gives you the inside line. On this occasion, a little bit of a kiss between the two cars, and the 17 went to see the beach on a beautiful sunny day in virtual Italy. But David, every single manoeuvre, be it dramatic or frustrating, has certainly provided an entertaining evening's racing here on a Tuesday night.
It absolutely has. It really, really has. It's had everything we could have possibly wanted to. It's just been so entertaining, Paul, and I've loved every minute of it. But I tell you what, I cannot wait for race 3.
Absolutely not. And while these images are in the background, I believe we have got our race winner. Yes, we have. George Boothby. Hello, sir. Tell me how you're feeling.
I'm feeling great. That was a good race. Lap 1 was just insanity. I can't remember really what happened apart from because there was too many things really. So, but all I know is I got out alive, and I wanted to control the gap to Voita behind me. He drove an amazing race, and we had a little bit of a tussle in the middle of the race. I made a big mistake on the second. Is it Lesmo? I don't know. But yeah, I made a really big mistake before Ascari, and yeah, we had a bit of side by side. Really close, hard but fair racing. Because Voigt is such a good driver. You can trust someone like that. And I managed to get him back into the turn 1, and then pulled a bit of a gap and just tried to maintain it. But it was one of those races where, because he was so fast, it was I couldn't really control the gap too well because just one mistake and he was right back at me. So, but managed to keep it to the end. Pace was insane, and super happy to bring us home.
It was incredibly entertaining, especially as you say, the fight with Fiala for first, second position swapping between you. How important is it to know that you can trust your rival and have so close racing amongst yourselves?
I mean, it's everything because you don't want to say it, but there's always maybe one or two names that prop up if you're near you, and you think in your head, But thankfully, Voita is, and hopefully me as well. Hopefully people think that about me. But Voita is definitely one of those people where the room will be given to you, and you can all, there might be a slight bit of contact potentially, but it's not going to be race ending. He's a really good driver, and I'm just super happy to have raced against him today.
Now, talk to me about the pace towards the end of the race. When you got the lead, we saw it rise up to 1.9 seconds gap, and it kind of yo-yoed a little bit. Were you controlling the pace, or how was that from your side?
It was a little bit, a little bit of both. I was controlling it a little bit. I knew that I'd have to push as hard as I could because this track it's one of those tracks where a lot of new drivers come to Monza and think it's very simple, but it's really hard to actually maximize it, and it's very easy to make a mistake. One tiny mistake, and you've lost half a second. So, I was controlling this pace a little bit, but it's always it's hard, like I say, because just one mistake and he's back on me, and it did happen a few times in that race. So, but I knew I had the overall pace. If it really came from push to shove, I knew I'd be able to, stay ahead, which is what we did. So, it went according to plan.
And of course, you came into this round 4th in the championship in the 992. Big victory. I am not going to do the mental maths, but it certainly puts you closer to the front of the field. How are you feeling heading into the Nurburgring? Is this championship charge time starts now?
Obviously, Nurburgring, this car is all right there. But obviously we've got the ballast now from the success ballast. So, Mache, my teammate's going to be taking over there, and he was really quick there in SRO. So, I've got no doubts that we might not be able to win it, but we can get some valuable points and go into the final round in a fighting position for the championship.
Well, George, I think I speak on behalf of everybody at home. That was mint. Really, really well done, man. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Congratulations on an outstanding victory.
Cheers, guys. Thank you for putting on such a good race. Appreciate it.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, George. George Boothby, the winner for Veloci McLaren. And David Christie. We've seen so many dominant winners before where they've controlled the race. But what made that special is George had to do some really, really exciting racing as well as being dynamite fast.
Yeah, it's very easy to think, oh, they've got it in the bag, but he admitted himself he had to work for that win tonight. There was some very, very sketchy moments, and he's been given rewards for that hard fight there. You said there about the mental arithmetic. By my reckoning there, that puts him, with the drop scores in mind, joint top of the championship, or rather Veloci McLaren Vexed moving up to that top position there. Again, it all comes down to Nurburgring, and then we move on to the 2023 ADAC SimRacing Expo.
Fantastic stuff. Close as we could possibly wish it to be. And remember, next race at the Nurburgring is, of course, on the 3rd of October. It'll be on the ADAC SimRacing Expo YouTube channel and Twitch channel, exactly where you're all watching now. So don't miss it. Because Nurburgring, again, David, it's one of those tracks, love it or loathe it, it was almost built for GT3 racing in mind, wasn't it? It just never fails to produce a ding-dong motor race.
It's one of those quintessential classic GT3 tracks, and more than being made for GT3s, I think it's made to be a championship deciding track. It's not going to decide the full championship, but it's certainly going to put many, many drivers out of contention. Hearts will be broken next week.
Absolutely, for sure. So, speaking of hearts will be broken, it breaks my heart to say goodbye to you all. A big thanks to ADAC SimRacing Expo, Asher Racing, SimGrid, the boys and girls behind the scene that puts on this show, do the stewarding, you folks watching at home, and of course, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. David Christie, for joining me, Paul Jeffrey, in the box. And until the 3rd of October, big love to all of you, and we will see you next time.